7 months after I walked out, my phone rang. Unknown number. Imani, it's Vernon. The CEO himself, voice shaking like a tambourine at new birth. We need to talk. Things here are. We're struggling. Lost 8 clients since you left. Numbers are the worst in 6 years. I could smell my own success from my real office in Bronzeville, my company name, Clarity Partners, gleaming on that glass door. We want you back. Director level. Equity stake. Double whatever you making now. Please. His voice cracked on that last word. And honey, that's when I knew. My revenge wasn't even half started. It was just beginning. I sat there in my leather chair, the one I'd picked out myself, not some hand-me-down with mystery stains, and I let the silence stretch. Through my window, I could see the Chicago skyline catching the afternoon light, and I swear I felt my ancestors whispering. My mama had worked 4 jobs to put me through school, told me to never beg for what I deserved. And here was Vernon Price, the man who'd rejected me 15 times for promotion, literally begging. When you want to meet? I asked, keeping my voice smooth as cocoa butter. The smart move was to say no and hang up. But something in me, pride, anger, maybe just plain foolishness, wanted to see his face when I walked back into Sterling Compass as the woman who'd built something better. Tomorrow. 9:30 in the morning. My office, Vernon said, desperation making his words tumble over each other. We can discuss terms, bring your lawyer if you want, whatever makes you comfortable. That should have been my first warning. Vernon Price didn't do comfortable. He did power plays and manipulation, wrapped up in expensive suits and that fake smile he'd learned at Northwestern. But I agreed anyway. I hung up and called my girl Nia, my best friend since we were kids on the South Side, sharing hot Cheetos and dreams. Girl, Vernon just called me, I said soon as she picked up. Talking about director level, equity stake, the whole 9. Imani, don't, Nia said, using my nickname in that warning tone. You know that man is poison. Whatever he's planning, it ain't about making you whole. I just want to see his face, I said. Just once. Let him see what he lost. Pride comes before the fall, sis. Remember that. But I wasn't listening. I was already planning my outfit, my cream Chanel suit, the one that cost 3 months of what Sterling used to pay me, with my grandmother's pearls. I was going to walk in there looking like black excellence personified, and Vernon was going to choke on his regret. The next morning, I walked into Sterling's downtown office at 9:30 exactly, and the energy hit different. The receptionist, new girl, didn't know me, looked at me with that mix of curiosity and envy. I could smell that same stale coffee smell mixed with expensive cologne and desperation. Vernon met me at the elevator and he looked rough. Gray threading through his temples that wasn't there 8 months ago. Stress lines carved deep around his mouth. Imani, he said, reaching for a handshake that felt like holding a dead fish. Thank you for coming. Really. This means everything. He led me to the executive boardroom, and that's when my stomach dropped. The entire board was there. 8 white men in navy suits, sitting around that mahogany table like judges at a trial. My lawyer wasn't with me. I thought this was just a conversation. What's this? I asked, my voice sharp. Just want everything transparent, Vernon said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. The board wants to hear directly from you about your success with Clarity Partners, your strategies, your client acquisition methods. The hairs on my neck stood up. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a setup. But I sat down anyway, because walking out would have looked like I had something to hide, and I didn't. I'd built my business clean, hadn't broken any laws, hadn't even violated the non-compete they'd forgotten to make me sign. For the next 2 hours they grilled me. How did I get the Riverside medical contract? What did I tell them about Sterling? Did I use any proprietary information? I answered everything truthfully, feeling like I was back in my grandmother's church being interrogated about where I'd been on a Saturday night. Then Vernon played his card. We've been reviewing our records, he said, sliding a folder across the table. And we found this. Inside was a draft non-compete agreement with my electronic signature from 7 years ago, during my onboarding. I felt my world tilt. I never signed that, I said. That signature's forged. Actually, Vernon said, and now his voice had that cold edge I remembered. Our IT department can verify the timestamp and IP address. You signed it from your work computer on your third day. The room spun. If that document was real, every client I'd taken was a violation. I could lose everything, my business, my reputation, face lawsuits that would drain me dry. This is fake, I said, but my voice shook. Vernon smiled, and it wasn't friendly. We don't want to go to court, Imani. That's messy for everyone. But we need to protect our interests. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to return our clients, dissolve Clarity Partners, and come back to work for us. Or we file a lawsuit by end of business tomorrow. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. You ain't got the right. We have every right, one of the board members said. And by the way, Marcus Thompson sends his regards. Marcus, my director of operations. The man I'd hired away from Sterling 9 months ago, the one who'd cried in my office about being passed over for promotion just like I had been. He'd been feeding them information this whole time. I walked out of that boardroom with my head high, but by the time I got to my car I was shaking. My phone buzzed, text from Nia. How'd it go? I couldn't even answer. I drove to my office in Bronzeville, and when I got there I had 3 voicemails. 2 of my biggest clients, Riverside Medical and Lakefront Health Systems, were pausing our contracts pending legal clarification. Vernon had already started his campaign. By 5 o'clock that evening, I was sitting in my office in the dark, smelling the sage candle I'd lit that morning when everything still felt possible. My business was bleeding out. My reputation was about to be destroyed. And the man who'd rejected me 15 times had just checkmated me with a piece of paper I couldn't even remember signing. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I did what I always did when my back was against the wall. I got organized. I pulled every file I had from my time at Sterling, every email, every document I'd saved before I left. If they wanted to play with paperwork, I was going to find something. Around 3 in the morning I found it. Not what I was looking for, but something better. It was buried in an old project folder from 4 years ago, back when I'd been assigned to audit Sterling's billing practices for a healthcare client. I'd flagged some irregularities then. Invoices that didn't match timesheets, consulting fees that seemed inflated, weird shell companies getting paid for services I couldn't verify. Vernon had told me to drop it, said it was just accounting complexities I didn't understand. But I'd kept copies, because that's what you do when you don't trust your employer. I started pulling threads, cross-referencing client names with billing records, and a pattern emerged that made me sick. Sterling had been systematically underbilling Black-owned healthcare providers, charging them half of what they billed white-owned corporate clients for the same services. But they weren't pocketing the difference directly. They were routing it through consulting fees to shell companies that Vernon and the board members owned. 15 years of fraud. Millions of dollars stolen from the very institutions serving Black communities. And my 15 promotion denials suddenly made perfect sense. Every time I'd gotten close to executive level, close enough to see the real books, they'd found a reason to keep me out. It wasn't just racism, though that made it easier. It was calculated protection. I'd been too good at my job, too detail-oriented, too likely to notice what they were hiding. By dawn I had everything documented. Screenshots, spreadsheets, a timeline showing exactly when I'd started asking questions, and when my promotion denials had intensified. My hands were shaking, but not from fear anymore. From rage. From the clarity that comes when you finally understand why you've been fighting uphill for so long. I called my lawyer at 7 in the morning. Leslie, I need you to listen to everything I'm about to tell you. Don't interrupt until I'm done. Then I called someone I never thought I'd call, my old coworker Shanice, who still worked at Sterling in accounting. Girl, I know this is random, I said. But remember when you told me Vernon was nervous about the new auditing protocols? About them bringing in outside reviewers? Yeah, Shanice said slowly. Why? Because I think I know what he's hiding. And I think you can help me prove it. What happened next moved fast. Shanice accidentally sent me updated billing files. Nothing she'd get in trouble for, just routine documents that happened to confirm my 4-year-old suspicions. Leslie connected me with a federal prosecutor she knew from law school who specialized in healthcare fraud. And I reached out to the 3 Black healthcare CEOs whose organizations had been stolen from Dr. Patricia Moss at Riverside Medical, James Crawford at Southside Community Health, and Evelyn Wright at Lakefront Health Systems. When I showed them the evidence, Dr. Moss cried. We thought we were getting a discount because they believed in our mission, she said, her voice breaking. They were stealing from our patients. Not anymore, I told her. But I need you to trust me. All three of you. We're going to take Vernon and Sterling down, but we have to do this right. They agreed. Not just because of the money, but because Vernon had looked them in the eye and smiled while he robbed them. That kind of betrayal demands justice. The morning Vernon's deadline hit, I didn't dissolve my company. Instead, I walked into the offices of the Chicago Defender with Dr. Moss, James Crawford, and Evelyn Wright. The investigative journalist, Tiana Banks, nearly fell out of her chair when we laid out the evidence. This is going to blow up the entire consulting industry in Chicago, she said. You ready for that? I've been ready, I told her. While Tiana started writing, Leslie filed the whistleblower complaint with the FBI. By noon, federal agents were walking into Sterling Compass with warrants. By 3 o'clock, Vernon was in handcuffs. The news hit the streets by evening. Not just the fraud but the why behind it. How Sterling had deliberately kept me away from the books. How my 15 rejections weren't about my qualifications but about my integrity. How Marcus had betrayed me because Vernon promised him my position if he spied on me. The irony was sharp enough to cut. Vernon's attempt to destroy me had handed me the evidence to destroy him. My phone exploded with calls. Clients who'd paused their contracts came back, apologizing. 3 other Black-owned consulting firms reached out about merging. Women who'd been fighting the same battles I had, ready to build something bigger together. And Elliot, my old manager who'd handed me rejection after rejection with that fake sympathetic smile, called me crying. I didn't know about the fraud, he said. I swear, Imani. I just did what Vernon told me. But I see now. I see what I did to you. What we all did. I could have hung up on him. Should have. But I remembered something my grandmother used to say. Don't become the thing you hate. You want redemption? I asked him. Then you're going to testify. You're going to tell the FBI everything. And then you're going to help me rebuild what y'all tried to tear down. He agreed. And when Sterling Compass dissolved in the aftermath of the scandal, Vernon facing 25 years in federal prison, the board members flipping on each other like dominoes, I bought the company's assets for pennies on the dollar. The offices, the equipment, the name. I absorbed 16 of their former employees, the ones who hadn't known about the fraud. And I merged with Simone James Consulting and the Riley Group to form something new, Equity First Partners. Not just another consulting firm, but a company built on the principle that Black excellence doesn't have to be exploited to be valuable. 6 months after Vernon's phone call, I stood in my new office, the one that used to be his, and looked out at Chicago's skyline. The same view he'd had when he was stealing from the community. But everything felt different now. My daughter Zara sat in the corner doing homework, her natural hair in 2 puffs, looking up at me every few minutes like I was a superhero. Mama, she said, my teacher wants you to come to career day. She said you built something important. What should I tell them? I asked her. Tell them the truth, she said, with that 7-year-old wisdom that cut straight through. So I did. I went to that career day the next week, stood in front of 23 third graders at King College Prep, and I didn't tell them about my success. I told them about my 15 rejections, about walking away from people who couldn't see my worth, about how sometimes your biggest setback is really a setup for something better. The most important thing I learned, I told those babies, their faces reflecting every shade of brown, is that revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free, and then lifting others up with you. Vernon was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. Marcus lost his consulting license and works in a call center now. Sterling Compass was dissolved, its legacy a cautionary tale about greed disguised as success. And me? I built an empire on the principle they tried to bury. That Black talent deserves fair compensation, ethical treatment, and the opportunity to lead. 7 months after that phone call, when Vernon's voice had shaken like a tambourine and he begged me to save him, I realized something. He'd been right about one thing. My revenge was just beginning. But it wasn't the revenge of destruction. It was the revenge of building something so undeniable, so rooted in justice and community, That my success became their permanent reminder of everything they could have had if they'd just done right. Sometimes the best payback isn't burning bridges. It's building better ones and charging people fairly to cross them. If this story hit you where it counts, make sure you subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Let's show the world how far this message reaches. Sometimes we carry things in silence, but when we speak up, we give someone else the permission to breathe again. We're here to help each other survive the struggle and come out stronger on the other side. So keep your eyes open, trust your soul, and remember that every small step you take is building your legacy. Keep it real out there.